Hello and welcome everyone back to the birthplace of Formula One right here in Silverstone. As we're looking forward to a fulfilled weekend of racing, there is a lot of things to do this weekend, so we will see you guys during the race.
Welcome back to the Paddock Podcast as we are here in the Paddock Club of the Silverstone Circuit. F2 is getting underway as they just wrapped up practice and are nearing the start time for qualifying, with only having one feature race that will take place tomorrow. We also have someone who is a great supporter of F2 and its drivers. Welcome, Lewis. It's great to have you on the show here with us. How's your season in F1 going?
Thank you for having me. The season for me is going okay. Just taking a moment to sit in on some F2 as the younger drivers are always worth taking a look at for those who are branching out from watching F1. Seeing what these younger drivers can do with that machinery is always fun to watch. And I'm glad I'm welcome to sit in with some teams during race weekends when they run with F1.
You're right. It's always fun to watch F2 with them driving the same machinery. It leaves the race down to a driver's skill and knowledge of the track they're on. Do you have any words of wisdom for fans and drivers alike as we're here in Silverstone?
Keep your head up, because the more effort you put into racing, the better you will become, and one day you will end up on the F1 grid just like me.
That's all the time we have here before F2 qualifying, so enjoy the rest of the weekend here in Silverstone.
Grid is all set for the race tomorrow, but before we go, let's quickly remind ourselves of our top three, which are Lawson, Iwasa, Callan Williams. The grid is set then, so that just leaves the race itself. Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all the action, and until then, goodbye. And hello to everyone joining us here in Silverstone this weekend as the drivers make their final preparations for today's race. The grid is forming up and we're getting ready for what promises to be a real spectacle. The 3.6 miles of Silverstone Circuit in Great Britain should be familiar to fans and drivers alike. Built on the side of a World War II airbase, the track features 18 corners and some good opportunities to overtake at the end of two DRS zones, located on the Wellington and Hangar Straights. So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's results with a look at the starting grid. An immense lap from Liam Lawson yesterday puts him on pole position, and Itayumo Iwasa in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Williams, Johnson, Frederick Vesti, Hauger, Hughes, Sato, Sargent, Jan Deruvala, Armstrong, Caldwell, Enzo Fittipaldi, Teo Porcher, and Vips for Shaw, Dragovic and Roy Nissany. Novalak, Boschong, Calderon and Amory Cordial completes the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's get down to the track. Davide, is there anything we should be looking for in today's race? The teams are all very competitive at the moment, so are we about to witness a push from anyone in particular?
Hi Alex, the team will have been studying everyone else out there very carefully, so I think we are in for a very interesting event today. I can't wait to see how this race unfolds.
The formation lap gets underway for this, the Formula 2 race, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure the car is ready for battle once the lights go out. We are almost ready to start the Formula 2 race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
All right, here we are. Going to be going with the one-stop strategy here, long on the hards, and then on the soft tires. Starting in P4, our teammate Sato the other Virtuosi, starting in P8. As you can see, 3 out of the 6 drivers for the top 6 are Red Bull drivers. So we're looking forward to a good fight today as the rest of the cars come up to the grid. So I'm hoping that we get a good finish for myself and my teammate of Sato in the Virtuosi. As you can see, the 5 red lights are coming on, and we're off to actually a bad start. Late response from us here as we lose 2 positions out from Vesti and Hauger, pushing us back to P6. Sato getting that P7 position against Hughes before the first corner. And that's going to be him right behind us there. And we're going to be side by side between Vesti and Hauger. Ahead of us, side by side with Sato, our teammate, coming through this next corner. He has the outside line. We hold our line as best as possible without trying to interfere. It's a little bit of a late turn there as we were on the inside, but Sato's there close behind. And with that move, through I believe turn 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, out of turn 4, turn 5, or something like that. We're already down to a second behind the top 5. Lawson up there ahead of Lawson, Williams, Vesti, Hauger. And then we're sitting in P6, Sato, Hughes, Sargent, and Caldwell for the top 10 as we're coming around the back straight up to Maggots and Beckett's here. Really fast S-curve that if you hit your points wrong, you lose a lot of time. See, we gained about 2/10 there coming through the corner, trying to get into the toe of Hauger, but it's not quite enough. We're going to be losing a little bit of ground. Sato still hanging in there in our toe, about just under half a second behind us as we're coming around to this long right-hander for the pit entry. And the overcast weather is kind of helping with these soft tires. Not as much grip as I wish we would have, but we're having to work with it as best as possible because it is an F2 car, not an F1 car. But because of this last corner and going wide, you see that snap there, we're ended up side by side with Sato, and we can basically say goodbye to the position for now. The losing pace and losing position to Ruva and Fittipaldi back there fighting for position as well. But a good strong fight for the first lap. Moving on to lap 8. We're still back in P7. Sato is ahead. 5.6 seconds in the gap between myself and my teammate. You can see how much pace I am losing on these hard tires. You can see Sargent trying to go side by side. A little bit of contact as we're coming up to Maggots and Beckett's. And that's Sargent, our American counterpart here in F2 in the 2022 season. If you guys don't remember, we are driving in the 2022 season for F1 24 that's coming out later in the end of May. And we're fighting pretty well to stay ahead of Sargent here, hoping to stay ahead if he comes into the pits. He's trying to stay in our toe. So we got the long right-hander as we're holding on pretty strong. So 6.1 seconds is the gap between myself and P6, and it looks like Hauger and Vesti are coming into the pits as well. It's going to be a handful of us coming in. It's going to be myself, Hughes, Caldwell, Fittipaldi, Armstrong, and Versure are the 6 drivers, and I believe that's Nessani as well. At this point, lap 9, Drugovic is already out of the race. He had a DNF as we are swapping onto those soft tires. And we're off to an actually okay launch. Could have been faster than I thought, but we didn't really lose position out as you see Armstrong there behind coming into the pits. And that's going to be Hughes, Fittipaldi, Hughes, Armstrong, Caldwell, Versure, Fittipaldi coming out of the pits behind us. And having the manual pit stop is a little bit different than I expected. As you can see, we have the manual control up to the white line and coming out on the pits in P15. So we start coming around to end of lap 9. See what our position changes are going to be like as we're coming through. You can see the front runners coming into the pits: Sargent, Porcher, Daruvla, Cordeal, Alt, Calderon, all those guys. We're going to be coming around. There's a little bit of a snap there, trying to get heat into the soft tires. So we're coming across the line, coming through the pits. That's going to be P7, back to where we were. We're going to be moving on to our F1 commentators.
Well, Crofty, it seems like the drivers have settled in pretty well after their pit stops, and there's not that much movement going around when it comes to positions, is there?
There has been quite a few position changes throughout the grid, but so far Lawson has had a howler of a race, and he's increasing his lead from the driver behind by an astounding amount. And this has been a race to watch as the drivers are dealing with low downforce setups, and that causes more tyre wear when it comes to cornering speed. The harder a driver takes the car into the corner, the more wear there is. And we've seen that with several drivers who have lost positions rather easily because the cars behind them are within not only DRS, but in the toe of the car ahead of them as well.
And we have watched plenty of cars being overtaken, even that of Johnson at the start of lap 2 earlier, which I believe was because Johnson didn't have a good launch from the start. We have Ted Kravitz to go over what happened at the start of the race.
Thank you, Alex, and you are correct. Johnson did have a bad start, and that is because of a bad reaction time. This happens to all the drivers, and there were no faults of any kind at the start, if that's what you were thinking. Drivers are under immense pressure the entire time they are on track. That starts as soon as they get into the car, and that will build up, Santia, some faster than others, that when they are watching the starting lights, it may register slightly slower than others. You have to remember that drivers have to do this all season. So that is a lot of stress and work. So seeing late starts like this halfway through the season are common amongst all of the drivers. And that is why Johnson wasn't able to hold that position against his teammate, aside from the increased tyre wear that he was facing later on before his pit stop.
And these drivers only have a few more laps to go here in Silverstone, so expect a fight to the finish.
And it is definitely going to be a fight to the finish as we move on to the final lap. We're going to be ahead of Hughes, only 2/10 or so behind us. Now I believe that was 8.2, 8.3 seconds the gap between myself and the next position. We come over the curve there, a little bit of a snap as we're trying to defend against Hughes, and we're coming through pretty well on these worn soft tires. I know it's only a few laps, but for you. We're coming around the final corner, and we're coming around a little wide, hoping to not get a penalty, and we don't. We're going to be holding on to P7.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Carlin today. Davide, what do you think made the difference here?
I think this race was won thanks to the tire management. You have to remember, it's not just about going as fast as you can. It's about consistency. It's about maintaining your speed over an entire race distance. So being able to keep the lap time competitive while still respecting the tires, that's where they won today.
And there you have it, today's winners. Having raced some of the biggest names in F1 to date, Carlin have once again shown their expertise when it comes to recruiting new talent. No doubt today's winners have a bright future ahead of them. They certainly deserve it after today's performance. After this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. Liam Lawson extends his lead at the top, getting ever closer to securing the championship. Now then, Davide Valsecchi, who would you say was your driver of the day?
Lots of drivers impressed me today, Alex. But if I have to say one that impressed me most, it's Liam Lawson.
And here's how things are shaping up in the Teams Championship. Carlin have extended their lead at the top of the standings. Meanwhile, a strong weekend from ART this time out, and they improved their position in the championship. There will be plenty more twists and turns to come this season. I hope you'll join us at the next race when Formula 2 returns.